a few times I phoned my bridesmaid and said that the wedding is not happening, and she will come over often with a bottle of Prosecco and say, let's talk about it. Let's get the wedding back on track.
The incredible Morgane Westley. How are you today?
I'm fine. Good morning, everybody.
So it is actually really hot here in the UK. You're in Paris. So what's the weather like over there?
It is also very, very warm. We had some thunderstorm yesterday, so it's actually a bit cooler than it was last week. And I turned off the fan in the room to not make too much noise for the podcast, so I may start sweating very soon.
Me and you both. I've shut all the windows so I can't hear my neighbours drilling because they decide to do that early in the morning. And now I'm probably going to sweat. So I apologise to anyone who's watching on YouTube.
Yes, apology.
So can we have a little introduction on what it is that you do and what inspired you to do it?
So I'm a coach, and I bring a therapeutic approach and evidence-based approach into my coaching to empower women to believe in themselves more. I become a coach because coaching really helped me a lot, really changed my life. I was a few years back in a very, very bad place. After giving birth to my second child, I had postnatal depression. I had my husband is in the military and was away. I was not feeling good about myself, and I was trying to find solutions. And one of them was to create a business on the side. And I went to a business planning day. And there I met a coach, and we had a session together, and that really changed the way I see myself. And when the opportunity came in 2021 to train as a coach, I jumped into it because I know that is what I wanted to do. I really wanted to be able to help people that were feeling like me, that were having a very low confidence, that were having far too much going on in their life, very stressed and overwhelmed all the time, and forgetting to who they are and forgetting to prioritize themselves. Yeah, I become a coach for that, to give back what I received.
I really identify with that because I went through postnatal depression with my daughter. I had quite a traumatic birth, so it's been kind of a knock-on effect. And when you have children as well, you do lose who you are. You lose that sense of identity because you're now responsible for this little baby, and it's no one tells you what to do. There isn't a rule book. Knowing that you can actually go out and recreate yourself in a way because you've got this empowerment of freedom to be whoever you want to be, and coaching can do that.
Yeah, it can really help you to identify. You don't necessarily need to reinvent yourself. You could just reconnect with who you were as well before, and it's really up to you. It's really your choice. But what motherhood bring a lot to us, like obviously we love our kids and we want to give them as much that we can, and sometimes we actually give them more than we can. There's a quote that I really love, is that we ask mom to work like they never had children, and ask them to be moms like they don't work. We ask for us so much. It's difficult, and we, especially us as women, we are building to reply to the need of that baby and to put their need first. Like that's why we wake up in the middle of the night to give them food, to breastfeed them or give them a bottle, whatever you decide to do. For a long time, we put their need first. And often we forget that to actually look after ourselves and to prioritize ourselves as well. And you all have been on a plane, I'm guessing, and you all have heard this Esther's telling you to put your oxygen mask first before helping your child. But in real life, we never do that. We always prioritize our child, our family, even if our friends sometimes, over ourselves. And that could have some huge consequences on how we feel, on our mental health.
We're all coming up with challenges in our life day after day. And obviously the industry I'm in with weddings and helping couples on their big day, one of those is we can, even though we're creating this magical time for ourselves, we can also neglect ourselves. We can run into triggers that we didn't know would be triggered by, and there can be family politics and there'd be conflicts. So how can my couples manage those triggers, those conflicts, when they're wedding planning?
The first thing is to really understand yourself and the way you think, feel, and behave, because we often have triggers that we don't know we have, but we have them and we react to them, but we don't know what makes us react like this, what makes us behave like this, what makes us feel like this or think like this, not knowing that we're actually being triggered by something. And we often think, like, for example, in conflict, we also often think that the other person is wrong and that we are right. But actually, there is something that they said that trigger us, or something they say or do that trigger us. And it's not all about them, it's about us. It's a way of being, of feeling, of thinking that creates that conflict. It's because what they say do make us react. It's almost like if we have a hook inside us that pull us away, and they catch the hook and pull it. But if the hook is not here, they can try to catch it and nothing is going to happen. So to really understand this hook that we have and to be able to manage them could really help you to manage all you mentioned, like the politics, the stress that you can have when you're planning a wedding. And there is knowing where they are and try to avoid as well. So you can either remove them or having them there, but being so confident that you're not letting anybody hook on them. So you have your trigger and you know what your trigger are, but you're saying, sorry, I'm not entering this game. I'm not entering this conflict. I'm not playing with you here. It's all done to understanding yourself.
Yeah, it's having that self-awareness piece within us, because I don't think a lot of us allow ourselves to look deep within ourselves, because those questions can be quite scary. They can be quite hard to answer. So when we're going, I feel triggered by this, most of us react instead of to kind of figure out what it is we're being triggered by. I very much went like that for years and years and years. And sometimes I still get triggered now. It's about taking that breath and thinking, okay, we either go forward and attack, or we come at this in a more mindful way. What am I being triggered by this? Who's triggering me? You know, is there some trauma attached to it somewhere? And trying to kind of figure that out. Because I know a lot of my brides especially are being triggered by older family members who feel like they have a say in what they should do in their big day. Like, you should have this family member attend, or you should do this, or yes, no, do this. I had one lady who she's got pregnant before her wedding, and she wasn't going to announce it until her wedding day. And her future husband's grandma is quite religious and said they've brought shame on the family and that it's disgusting, it shouldn't have happened, all of this. And the grandma's trying to turn the whole family against them before their wedding day. And their wedding's in a few months' time, and she's so scared no one's going to turn up. And it's like, how do you deal with almost like the older generation feeling like they have a right to rule you in a way, control what it is that you do?
Yeah, and it's all done to you, because you need to think about what you can control and what you can control. And obviously how this granny thing and a religious approach, you cannot change that. That is never going to change unless the granny decides to change it, but you cannot change that. It's all about how you're taking on what she said and what she is trying to do. And to understand that where she's coming from is nothing to do with you. It's all to do with her and her own belief. And it's up to her if she wants to think that you're bringing shame on the family. You know yourself that you're not. Decide how you want to react to that. And you are saying self-awareness is very important. It is, and is especially important, I think, when you are being triggered by so many things, to be able, like you said, to take a step back and say, wait a minute. Because when we're triggered, we often react with our primitive brain. It's not the brain that bring the thinking in us is a brain, part of a brain that make us react, not think. So to be able to say, wait a minute, I need sometimes to actually activate my prefrontal cortex here and start thinking about the situation. That is actually quite difficult, and you cannot do that if you don't have the self-awareness beforehand.
It's hard as well, especially if you're confronted with it dead on, because your natural reaction would be, well, my bride's natural reaction is to retreat. She's very sad about it, but her fiance is more attack. So she's got the two different elements there to how she would react and how her future husband would react.
There is 3 ways to react when you're being hooked. And this 3 ways, you mentioned 2 of them, is to crawl back and act like you were a victim. There is being very angry and very wanted to fight, and that is you being a prosecutor. Or there is the rescuer trying to solve the solution as much as you can. And that is the 3 ways that are going to create the conflict, because the granny here in that situation is definitively the prosecutor, pointing the finger at them and telling them, you should not have done that. You like really pointing the finger, and your bride is going, victim, but it's not my fault. What am I going to do? Is anybody coming to my wedding? And a lot of people will react like this when someone is pointing the finger at you. And it's a dance between these 3 positions, you know, the prosecutor, the victim, and the rescuer, that everybody is trying to get into the conflict to, at the end, make you, comfort you in the way you see yourself and the way you position yourself within the world. I don't know if that makes sense, but so the difference between her and her husband is probably within her. She have the belief that, and I'm saying probably because obviously I don't know her, we have never spoke, so, but she may have a belief within herself to say, I'm the victim, everybody is going to try to get me, or I'm not being loved, I'm not important. This kind of thing that she may have underlying the fact that this conflict she reacts as being a victim, when he may have a different belief that is more about everybody is trying to get me, I need to fight, I need to be strong, this kind of thing that make him want to be the prosecutor. The granny had belief underlying all the religious belief system that she has, underlying the way she's acting.
Yeah, and I see that quite a lot. Family politics can get very messy, and so it's hard to do what you want to do and please everybody. You can't please everybody. It's impossible. So that's why I guide my couples into creating their own day. It's nice to get opinions and maybe advice from people, but it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to take it. Just run with it and do it with it how you please. How did you find your own wedding day? Because I know you're married.
Yeah, so it was the same, some politics. So we had some politics as well, some family politics that were quite difficult to deal with, that almost bring a stop to the wedding, to be honest. So it was a long time ago, and it was before I had the kids and before I knew all I know now about behavior and way of thinking and feeling, and therapeutic approach, like the transactional analysis that I've trained on. So if I look back, I was definitively putting myself in a victim position, being told what I should be doing during the wedding, some people pointing the finger, trying to be the victim and telling me that what I'm doing was upsetting them and it was not normal that I do that. And it was quite challenging, and we almost didn't have the wedding before that. We definitively didn't have, like, at first we wanted to have like a big celebration for our 10 years anniversary. That was last year. So that is just after we got married, but none of us wanted to go through all this conflict again. So we decided not to have to do that. I was the victim, but also the rescuer, trying to, like you mentioned, trying to please everybody. And that is when you're trying to rescue, that is when you're putting everybody else's need above your own needs. And I was definitely moving myself between the victim and the rescuer, and a lot of my family members were prosecuted. And it was very challenging. It was very challenging. And I know that some of the relationships that I now have with my family member are different because of the time of the wedding. So that was one difficult part of the wedding. But the other difficult part is we decided to get married in France. And I don't know if any one of you that is listening or watching have ever had to deal with the French administration. That is just enough to just not want to get married. So my husband was at sea, and my bridesmaid, thank God for her. If you listen, Suzanne, you know who you are. She managed to calm him down. They were asking for so many paperwork, everything. I mean, it's difficult to describe because, like, I give you an example. In France, we don't lose our maiden name. So when you get married, you still have on your passport your married name, on your maiden name. You cannot lose your maiden name. My husband, best man, was a woman, married woman. She didn't have her maiden name on her passport. That created a massive thing, which at the end she had to give a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, a copy of her passport. It was just going on and on and on and on for just her to be the witness of her wedding with a passport. It just didn't have the middle name on it. So a few times I phoned my bridesmaid and said that the wedding is not happening, and she will come over often with a bottle of Prosecco and say, let's talk about it. Let's get the wedding back on track. And a few times my husband was at sea, and he will phone and say, when he come back, he will phone and say, the wedding's still on. And I said, just about. Just dealing with the administration and I'm laughing because obviously and I now live in France, so I'm living that with the French administration every day. But yeah, it was tricky.
Was all that still going on prior to the wedding, like the few days before, or was it all sorted?
No, I think it was all sorted before. It was mainly, so you have to register. You have to get married in the city hall in France. You cannot just get married in church. You need to get married in the city hall before you do everything. But because of that, you have to send so many paperwork in advance. We needed a translator as well because my husband French was not considered good enough. So we had that all set up maybe a month in advance. And we were very lucky with a translator. Oh, no, it's not true, because at the end, they asked us very, very, like maybe a week before the wedding to translate some document. They wanted some of the document we sent them translated in French. So our translator was very good to produce them very quickly. Yes, we had to go and see her. We were in France, so everything was a bit easier by then. But she had to translate. Like, me translated was not good enough. We needed to be an official translator.
So where is your husband from?
He's from the UK. He's English.
Wow, right. And where did you meet?
So we met in Glasgow. He's in the Navy, and he was working in Glasgow, and we had a friend in common, and we met in a curry house in Glasgow.
Very traditional curry house in Glasgow.
Curry house in Glasgow, yeah. We are both, a friend was having a big dinner and invited both of us. That is how we met.
And what was your engagement like? Did you know the proposal was coming, or was it quite out the blue for you?
I know the proposal was coming. I know the proposal was coming because I've never really wanted to get married. But he convinced me, and obviously to convince me, he had to let it go that I wanted to get married. And so I kind of knew it was going to happen. I didn't exactly know when. But then when I was at work, and he said to me, "I'll text me when you leave work," which is not unusual. So I text him when I leave work, and then he replied, "Text me when you are at that traffic light." I was not driving. It was one of my friends driving me, and I was like, okay, that is a bit weird. Text me when she drop you. Okay, a bit more weird. Text me when you are, I live on the 4th floor, so text me when you are climbing up the stairs. Well, that is very weird. So then I took the pace of him and texted him with like 30 seconds. I've climbed 2 stairs, I've climbed 4 stairs. So I kind of knew by the time I get there that he was going to propose.
And what was the feeling like? Was you Was it a nice surprise, or was you very nervous?
I knew it was going to happen, and I was very happy that he proposed.
And how, talking on proposals, weddings can bring out the worst in some people, especially family members. There can be that weird energy over people getting engaged, married, having children, even moving house. Even there can be a lot of conflict from other people. And as we spoke about the conflict and our triggers, how can we make that moment still be special if we're having people act out towards us? So they could be quite malicious, quite spiteful. We're being triggered by some things that they may say. How can we be more self-aware in ourselves to recognize those triggers?
So I mentioned earlier the three positions, we call that the drama triangle: the prosecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. So that is a role that you're playing that is going to create a conflict. But we also have, and I love the name, the winner triangle, which is which overlaps the drama triangle, and is where you're actually saying, no, I'm not having this fight with you, I'm not entering this conflict. So the trigger may still be here, but what is important here, that the trigger is here or not here, that you know yourself enough to say, I'm not playing that game, because all conflict at the end of the day are psychological game. So you can say, I'm not entering it, I'm not going for it. And for example, instead of being the prosecutor and being, it's all your fault, you're doing it, you could be assertive. And you say, I'm sorry, I'm not having that. It's up to you, but I'm not having that. Don't involve me in that. Or when you are the rescuer trying to always bring people back here, so saying, I don't know what your bride that is pregnant can do with that granny, but with their husband, granny, or future husband, granny. But when you're trying to please everybody, instead of pleasing them, instead of doing everything for them, you can say, here are the resources, here are the information, find a solution yourself. I'm giving you all the resources here. I'm caring for you by giving you all the resources, but you have to find the solution yourself. I'm not here to please everybody. And that is a difference between trying to please everybody, but instead caring for them by giving them the solution. Or where you are the victim and you go back and say, nobody loves me, nobody's going to come to my wedding, nobody's being vulnerable with your own feeling and saying, I'm afraid that if you're acting like this, nobody's going to come to my wedding. Or I'm afraid that people will not like the food. And being clear on your feeling and being vulnerable with them and saying them instead of playing a victim.
Trying to find that fine line balance on things, isn't it? And it can, we're only human at the end of the day, so we may react in a certain way, but we have that power within us to react to how we want to react. It's also knowing that if we're being triggered, do we want to react in that way? Do we want to be who we've been all those years? Do we want better? Because we know if we react, it's going to have that cycle of conflict, being triggered, and it's just going to carry on and on and on.
Exactly. And it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of, you mentioned a mindfulness response. It could take you to actually take a deep breath in and take a step back to actually changing yourself or pointing the finger to be assertive. I'm not having that for my wedding. I'm sorry, I'm not having that. So before the call, we discussed about Aunt Betty, and I just make Aunt Betty up. Imagine that you're getting your wedding ready, and Aunt Betty, that you're very close to, phone you and say, you said the ceremony start at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I don't know what time the ceremony is supposed to start. It's too long ago for me. Say 1 o'clock. Do you mind if we start at 1:15, because I don't think I will make it on time? You have the choice to either react from the drama triangle and create a conflict with Aunt Betty by prosecutor on her and saying, what do you think you are, Aunt Betty, for wanting to change the time of my wedding? You could be the victim. I'm getting fed up with people telling me what to do for my wedding. It's getting too much about it. Or you could be the rescuer. let me see, Aunt Betty, what I can do to change the ceremony. Oh, but if I move it to 1:15, then Uncle Matthew won't be able to stay too long because he have to leave at 2:00. So what can I do to make that work for Auntie Betty and Uncle Matthew at the same times? And then I have a friend that come from the States that won't be able to, with the time difference, would not be, if we go too early, they would not, they would be too jet lagged to actually make the wedding. What can we do? How can we? And stressing and bringing a lot of stress on yourself to try to please everybody. Or you could decide to be assertive and saying, Aunt Betty, I'm sorry. I love you very much. And I want you to come at the wedding, but I cannot change the time of my wedding. It's our wedding. That is the time that works for us. That is what we're going to have. Or you could say to Aunt Betty and be caring for her. So sorry that 1:30 doesn't work for you, Aunt Betty. But here, my bridesmaid, do love a good bridesmaid. Here, my bridesmaid that may be able to help you in terms of getting you there for 1:00. We have a lot of guests that are coming from where you live. Maybe you will be able to car share, go and speak to her. You give them resources there. You're not solving the problem for them, you're just helping them with the resources. And it's up to them, it's up to Aunt Betty to find a solution. Or to be vulnerable to Aunt Betty. I cannot believe they're asking me that. That makes me feel very, very upset, Aunt Betty, because I'm trying my best here to please everybody, and it's not possible. And I'm a bit offended that you actually asked for that.
I think it's being honest, and I think some of my brides especially find it hard to say, this is how I'm feeling, and I can't please everybody, but a lot of their relatives may think they're first. Put me first. I'm your aunt, I'm your nan, I'm your mom even, so you should think of me. And it's kind of selfish for them to think that you should think of them first before you. But it's also saying, well, you know, it's my day. You know what? It's up to you if you come at 1:00 or you come at 1:15. It's up to you if you do that. It's somebody else's decision making that can have a profound effect on our life, but it's on how we choose to react. It's our ultimate
exactly.
power.
And we don't know what's going on for the other people. And Aunt Betty could be a very, very cheeky aunt that just could not be asked to be here for 1:00. Or it could be Aunt Betty that you're very close to that actually wanted to get you flowers, say, for the wedding, but the florist only opened at 11:00, something like this. Or she wanted to look perfect for your wedding because you are so important to her. So you don't know either the intention of the other people and why they ask what they ask for. If you start the conflict, it could, if you reply within the triangle dimension, the prosecutor, the rescuer, and the victim, you could create a conflict that actually is no point to be here, because the intention of Aunt Betty, you don't know what they are until you actually start speaking either in an assertive or caring or vulnerable way instead of prosecuting, rescuer, and victim way. And maybe realize that Aunt Betty loves you so much that she wanted to, I don't know, buy, like I said, buy you flowers for your big day, or manage to get your cousin that was maybe not able to come from the airport, and therefore their plane getting very late, and she knew you really wanted the cousin, so she's going and pick her up. You don't know what make Aunt Betty want to come to your wedding at 1:15. So it's much better to come from the winner triangle, because then you can start having the discussion and you can start understanding the other person. You being strong on your boundary on what you are letting go of. Obviously, there is part of your wedding that you may not care. And that is a good way of just, to know actually what is really important for you and what is not. Because what is very important for you is what you need to protect. And what is not important, just tell people I don't care. For example, where your mom is going to wear at the wedding, or where your mother-in-law is going to wear at the wedding. Or for us, we remember that my mother-in-law wanted to be very involved, and we give her the RSVP She was in charge of managing the RSVP, because by then we all kind of knew who were coming and who was not coming. For her to get the formal RSVP and get the guest list started was very important. So we gave that to do, because it was not important to us.
Mm-hmm. Like they get them involved, give them a role, but it's not something that you can go, if it wasn't done correctly and it was a role that you could do, you've got control over it, but if somebody else is doing it, you have to do it again. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you got maybe a tip or a trick or something like that my couples can start using to help with maybe being more assertive or being more mindful of their triggers? Is there anything that they can do to start?
So to ask yourself, when Aunt Betty is phoning you, asking you quite often, when you put the phone down, and ask yourself, what make me react like this? What is in me that make me want to fight, to rescue Aunt Betty, or to play the victim? And to be really in tune with your feeling could really help you, because obviously there is something that we didn't speak about as well, is the glass of water, your glass of stress, your jar of stress, more is filled up, more likely that you are going to react to anything Aunt Betty is going to tell you. But if you have starting the day feeling already good, and Aunt Betty is phoning you at 8 o'clock, asking you that, you may not react the same way that if you're already waking up so stressed and already being, you're stretched out, being quite high, you may react totally differently. So one thing that you can do, if you don't have time to know your trigger and to be self-aware, because that obviously could take quite a long time, is to check in with yourself. And one exercise that I love doing is asking yourself, how am I feeling? You take a minute and put the timer on your mobile and write for a minute everything that come up, and until you hear the beep from your mobile, keep writing, keep asking yourself what else, and then ask yourself, how would you like to feel? How am I feeling? How you would like to feel? And again, describe it, put a minute on your timer, and then ask yourself, what can I do to feel like this? What can I do differently to feel like this? And that will help you to bring the stress level down. Therefore, you could be more aware if someone is trying to trigger you. Because really, a trigger is your brain perceiving a threat. And you may have heard a lot of, our brain is still react the same way than when we were cavemen, and we have to fight for survival a lot. And the brain cannot see the difference between an emotional threat and a physical threat. So that you have a big bear coming towards you, or do you have Aunt Betty that coming to ask you to change the time of your wedding, and more you are on alert, more likely you're going to react instead of responding. So it's how do you keep yourself into an emotional state that is already calm? And this exercise helped quite a lot.
I've started doing that myself, checking in, asking myself what it is that I'm feeling every morning, or even at times at heightened stress. Why am I feeling this way? I journal a lot anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop those questions down as journal prompts for my brides, and they can check in with themselves and start from there. That sounds amazing. I know we spoke briefly before we had a call that you've got like a 90-minute session for those couples that can't really commit to like 12-week blocks of coaching. It's called, is it Unlock Your Sunshine?
Yeah, so it's called Unlock Your Sunshine, and I thought it will be quite useful for your couple or your bride or groom. It's a single session, and it's a very powerful 90-minute session. Obviously, you're here, you have a deadline, you're here to prepare your wedding, so you may not want to start. You may want to start, I don't know. So if you want, you can start a 3-month coaching and helping you to distress and to bring some more self-awareness to yourself. But I know preparing for a wedding is quite time intensive, and it could be quite stressful. So there is also, I'm offering this single session 90 minutes to really help you to unlock your sunshine. And but what I mean is, all this cloud that you have above your head that are stopping you to shine, to be happy, is to take one cloud away. So I'm not a magician. In 90 minutes, we will not manage to get all the cloud away, but at least the biggest one, the one that are blocking you, we will manage to remove it, or if not remove it fully, to make it so thin that the sun would be able to shine on you, and you would be able to feel good about yourself and understanding yourself. So for example, if Aunt Betsy is phoning you and you get so annoyed, you're feeling so sad about her, or you're trying your best to help her and you don't know how to get out of this situation, this 90 minutes can really help you to understand what makes you react like this when Aunt Betsy phone, and what you can do instead, and bring a different perspective and helping you to jump from the drama to the winner triangle. Because we all, like I said earlier, we're all in the drama triangle. As a kids, we decide on who we're going to be, on the place we're going to have in the world, and we create unconsciously some rule about ourselves, and this rule keep coming back all the time. But the good thing is that we are allowed, or we have the power to actually change this rule. But until we make this rule conscious, for example, one that I had, and I feel quite a lot during my wedding, is I'm not important. I put myself as someone that was not important, so I needed to make sure that everybody else had a good time at my wedding, but me. I have to make sure that everybody was pleased, but me. And until I knew about this rule, and until I realized what does that trigger into me, I could not do anything about it. And this 90 minutes would really help you to start digging on this rule, and to help you to find solution that you can apply straight away for your wedding. Obviously, if you want more self-awareness, in 90 minutes is only 90 minutes, so we will not be able to do magic there. And I do have 3 months and 6 months program as well to really help you to understand yourself better, and to bring some more self-awareness, so you don't react, and you feel more confident, and you believe in yourself, and you're more strong in your boundary. And we mentioned motherhood at the beginning, where you prioritize yourself and your own needs, not in a selfish way, but to be able to give to more people, because you cannot run on an empty tank. You need to put petrol in your car for your car to be able to move and get you where you want to go. So, but this 90 minutes can really help you to remove one situation that is stressing you.
It sounds incredible. And you can literally do this 90 minutes at any point. So if my brides and grooms may find you at the beginning of the journey, in the middle of the journey, at the end, it's going to help either way. And if you want to, as you said, if you've got more programs, and the beauty of this as well is you can continue after your wedding and get a better frame of mind too.
Yeah, self-awareness is, I like using the onion metaphor. When you peel an onion, and there is another layer coming out, and there is another layer coming out, and there is another layer coming out, and you will always find something new that make you, oh, why did I do that? Oh, did I do that because of that? And it's all these things that actually bring confidence in you in life, being able to be aware of what is going on, and aware of yourself, and aware of how that make you feel, think, and behave is very important.
It really is. Where can my couples find you? Do you have an Instagram, website? Where can they go?
If you listen to us after the summer, the website will be Get More Momentum. So Get GT, and Momo is my nickname, and Momentum.com, and on Facebook is the same name, Get More Momentum. And in Instagram, for some reason, I pick a different name. It's my name, so it's Morgane.Westley.
Fantastic. I will link everything in my show notes, and if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a little title so you can see that information. That's it for today. Thank you so much for all of the wonderful information. I've actually learned a lot today. I didn't know, and I like that winner triangle. I really love that.
Yes. If you want, I will create a summary, a PDF, if you want, for your bride, so they can see the triangle and see helping them to move from one to another.
Wow.
A few questions to ask themselves.
I will link that as well. So there's lots of good information there for everybody, including myself. So thank you so much for your time today.
For having me, Kelly.
No, that's great. Thank you.